Welcome to my spool knitting tutorial. I am going to teach you how to make your own knitting spool. I'll teach you that at the end of the video, and I'm also going to teach you how to use it. And I like to use bulky or super bulky yarn. It just looks nicer, and it tends to go a little faster as well. But you start by putting the tail down through the center of your knitting spool and hold it with your thumb so it doesn't slip away. Then from the center, you come up and around stick number 1, around stick number 2. You always go behind first, around stick number 3, behind around stick number 4, behind around stick number 5, behind around stick number 6. And that's one row. Make sure they're always pushed down. Then we need a second row in order to actually, or at least a second stitch in order to actually do any knitting. So we bring the yarn behind again and around stick 1, and then I'm going to hold both my tail and my feeder yarn as I pull this first stitch over because it's not attached to anything but the tail. So if I don't hold the tail, it will just pull away. And then I can release the tail and just hold the tail and pull it. I tend to pull it between every stitch. So then bring your yarn behind again, behind the next stick, which is 2, around and hold it. The reason I hold it here is because if I don't, as I'm pulling the bottom stitch over the top stitch can more easily slide off if I'm not holding it. Make sure your stitch is always pulled down to the base of the stick, and then you just keep going. Behind, around, hold it, and pull the bottom stitch over the top, and then pull the tail. Behind, around, hold, pull the bottom stitch over the top, and pull the tail. Behind, around, hold it, bottom stitch over the top, and pull the tail. That's one complete row of knitting done, and then you just continue. Behind, around, hold it, pull the bottom stitch over the top. Again, behind, around, hold it, bottom stitch over the top. Behind, around, hold it, bottom stitch over the top. And then you just keep going. Now I did another tutorial about finger knitting, which is also a fun, simple way to knit without having to use knitting needles, just like a spool knitting, or just like spool knitting. But finger knitting is flat knitting because your hand is flat, and spool knitting is circular knitting. As you can see, it's a complete circle. So it makes what we call an I-cord. It's really exciting when it starts to come out the bottom of your spool. Keep going. Now, if at any time that you want to stop your spool knitting and you're finished and you want to bind off, what I do is I just cut my yarn. I don't actually do a bind off. I just thread the end of my yarn onto a tapestry needle. And then I run it up and off and pull. Just make sure you're not pulling your other stitches off. Up and off and pull. I'm holding my finger here to keep the rest of the stitches on as I'm pulling each stitch off. And then the last one. And there it is. After I've run my yarn through all the stitches, I usually like to run it through the stitches again to secure it a little better. And there you have your spool knitting, this nice chunky I-cord. Love it. Now, how do we make this? I mean, you probably see just by looking at it. You take your toilet paper roll, and I like to use 6 sticks. I have my tape ready and waiting, and I just hold it in place. And then I place the other stick opposite and just wrap the tape around and make sure it's secure, because masking tape really isn't that sticky. So you definitely want to make sure it's pressed down. And then for this, the 3rd and 4th and 5th and 6th, I just put them 1/3 of the way. And then the other one opposite. Wrap it around to secure it. And then the last ones here. Oops, I said it wasn't sticky and then it stuck to my scissors. And then just wrap it around and secure it. Definitely want to make sure your tape doesn't go up over the top edge, because it will stick to your yarn. And then it's just a little easier, especially for children, to do this if you number the sticks. And there it is. That's how you make your own knitting spool and knit with it. Thanks for watching. Bye.